All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. Yay. This is for the Midvale Planning Commission, February 26, 2025. We're going to start this meeting like we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. If we can get a roll call vote, please.
Chair Erickson?
Here.
Vice Chair Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Tippett?
Here.
Commissioner Snow is excused. Commissioner Lidke?
Oh, here.
Commissioner Edwards?
Here.
Commissioner Kasparian?
Thank you. All right, did everyone have a chance to review the amazing minutes put together by Aubrey, 20 pages long?
Yes, they were quite extensive, but I saw no problem with them.
Apparently Dustin reviewed them too.
She's expecting a $25 gift card from everybody for those.
I just want a special commendation. Thank you so much. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of February 12th, 2025.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you for that. First up on the agenda, or second, I should say, for public hearing, we have Eric Winters request large-scale master plan approval for the View 78 apartments located at 795 West Ivy Drive in the Jordan Bluffs sub-areas 1 through 3 zone, and it looks like Vendolin will be presenting. Fantastic.
Put my phone on silent.
Good evening, planning commissioners. This is an old friend. You've seen this before. And I wanted to go into the approval process just a little bit before we get into the meat of this. The ordinance, and you see that in the staff report, has several basically instructions to the developer of what to provide to the city. And there are also some requirements. But this is a large-scale master plan, so this is still very much on the conceptual end of things. And we reviewed it, the developer, the Gardner Company, and Eric Winters, who is also in the ordinance, in the audience, the engineer provided everything the ordinance is asking for, and the details of that are in the staff report. So I won't go through every detail here, but first of all, the location is shown on the screen, south of Ivy Drive. You could say in the corner of Ivy Drive and Bingham Junction. The parcel is about 28 acres, and this is a sort of a nice overview of phase 1 of the project. And this phase is going to have 232 units that are within the multifamily structures. On the plans, they call them 58 plexes. And then 28 townhomes that are sort of on the eastern portion there along the road that goes to the middle of the site. And in our ordinance, that road is called the tertiary road. It's a classification within the ordinance. It basically means it's a local street. There are some interesting aspects of this that you see in a few areas in the city, but not very many. And later on, when the site plan comes, we'll see the details. But the way they designed the road, and this particular image doesn't quite do it justice, but they are using bulb outs in order to protect the parking cars. And so that's actually a pretty nice feature to have on a street. I think from experience as a city in Midvale and other cities in the valley, we know no matter what your parking requirement is, there will be cars on the street. And so this acknowledges the fact, but the development still parks on its own. They meet the requirement, they even exceed it, especially in the townhome portions. Here's the, you could say the conceptual site plan, and we saw phase 1. Phase 2 on the eastern side of the tertiary road consists of townhome structures. And there are 96 of them. And then phase 3, which is the still vacant portion in the southern part of the area, is still to be decided. By the time phase 1 and 2 have run its course, have been constructed, we may see more townhomes, we may see something higher density. That's still to be decided. If you remember, not too long ago, we approved these two images, and these are figures in the code. You recommended approval. They still need to go to City Council. This is waiting, just like this large-scale master plan is going to wait for the development agreement that spans the entire Jordan Bluffs area. That's still, there's an amendment in the works, and so we are basically creating some of the groundwork for this project, but it will have to wait until the development agreement has run its course. So, and if you see the arrows there at the pods, the pods were slightly changed, the boundaries were changed in order to match the phases that the project needs. Here's the grading and drainage plan. I think at this stage, the one interesting thing is that when you look at the southern portion of the site, there's a lot of slope, so you probably won't see much development there. And you can also, sense that just when you drive by. Here's the overall utility plan. The city engineer looked at this and decided this works and will work once they get more, deeper into the design of this. One item that, I wanted to point out to you is the sewer vac station and Midvale's Public Works office. Public Works is the neighbor to the east, and the sewer vac station is going to service this development. And if you're interested in that, Eric Winters or Dave Dennison can explain that a little more. Here's the circulation plan. They are displaying where cars can go, where bicycles can go, and where pedestrians can find a spot. The road right now is only shown for vehicular circulation. Once we get into the site plan, it's probably relatively easy to make some changes on the road, even just with paint, to encourage cycling a little more. Here are the elevations for the multifamily structures, and here for the townhomes. This is the landscaping plan, the conceptual landscaping plan, and you can see that there's actually quite a bit of open space in the concept plan here. And this shows the different amenities, and they really exceed what the code requires. Also, if you overlay this and study this a little bit, there's actually even more than the amenities plan shows. There's barbecue pits and little amenities here and there. And here's the motion. There are two conditions. The first one I already talked about, the development agreement for the overall area. The second condition is something that you are really used to in a way. Each large-scale master plan like this also requires its own development agreement. And that will come. You don't normally see them. They're a legal tool to tie the development to the overall development agreement. And then the other item I already talked about is the approval of the figures in the code by the City Council. And if you have any questions.
Have you had any comment?
Actually, I didn't have any comment.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, not surprising.
Even though there were quite a few letters that went out, there's a sign.
Noticing in that area is, covered, yeah.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And then I would invite Eric to come up. If you'd like, you don't necessarily need to.
I'll come up.
Okay.
Eric Winters, Wasatch, 620 South State Street. Don't know what else to tell you. Vendelin did an awesome job. The project's exciting. As Dave knows, this project's been to you guys a few times. You've seen it a few times. It's an old friend. But I think with the amount of effort we've put into this new design, it's pretty exciting. A lot of open space, a lot of amenities. So I don't know, any questions you can think of, I'm happy to answer them.
I think I'm good. Yeah.
You guys are good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're good.
Easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do like the changes that have been made, so.
I agree.
We appreciate your patience and your willingness to make it a better product. Old friends are the best kind of friends.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to open it up for public hearing. It is now open.
Seeing no public comment or hearing no public comment, I move that we close it.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Oh, yes, thank you, Robin. Legal?
Yes, it's an administrative decision for the Planning Commission to make. If it meets the requirements, you have to approve it. If it doesn't, you can deny it, but if it doesn't and it can be mitigated, you can approve it with conditions, such as have been suggested.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we do have several conditions on this. They all seem kind of part and parcel with the process, kind of collecting little ones and then collecting them all at the end. I don't have any qualms regarding this.
I don't either.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we recommend approval of the large-scale master plan for the View 78 apartments located at 795 West Ivy Drive in the Jordan Bluff sub-areas 1 through 3 zone with the finding noted in the staff report, subject to 1, City Council approval of 1, a new amended and restated master development agreement for the Jordan Bluffs project area, and 2, a development agreement for the large-scale master plan of the View 78 apartments. 2, City Council approval of MMC 17-7-10.12.1 and MMC 17-7-10.12.5, which replaced the pod and street exhibits.
I second it.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Erickson,
Yes?
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kasparian,
Yes.
Commissioner Lidke,
Yes.
Commissioner Tippett.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, and good job reading that. It was a long one this time. And thank you, continue working with staff. You figured it out, so.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
Next one.
We'll see you soon.
Next up on the agenda, we have staff updates and other business. So number 1, we have the land use training ground rules, chapters 4 through 5, which were pages 43 to 74. I was reading chapter 4, it was so easy. That's what I have to say. And chapter 5, I read most of it.
You up front, and I can
Okay,
see everyone better.
ask all the questions now. Can't hear us.
So, this is about the general plan and some other things, but let's start with the general plan. Does anyone have questions or things you noticed?
How often do we bring amendments to the general plan? I haven't seen one in my tenure on the commission.
I think that's right. I don't know, whoever predates me here
I'm trying to think.
I mean, there are zoning amendments, but that's not
Yeah, that's not
technically-
general plan amendments.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah.
I can't think of even.
that's not part of the general plan. That's its own plan, right?
Well, no, actually, Liz is right. So the general plan is actually really composed of an expanding list of plans. One, can you switch the inputs that I can plug in? So the state law defines that, and it's actually quite open. I'll put it on the screen, and then you can sort of look through that a little bit. So every city is a little different in that. So for as long as I've been here, we have really, most people when they say amend the general plan, they automatically think about land use. So for as long as I've been here, Liz and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember that we've ever amended the general plan. It may have to do with the fact that our general plan is quite general.
It's all in the name.
In other cities, sometimes the general plan takes it a little further than ours does. For example, there's sometimes there can be a more detailed future land use map. And if for whatever reason there's a zone change and the city feels, well, we should approve the zone change, but it really doesn't fit with what our more specific general plan contemplates, then you would see maybe an amendment that goes in tandem, where you have a general plan amendment and a zone map amendment pretty much simultaneously. So.
What's the ideal time period between looking at the general plan or master plan also?
So.
Is there one?
Yes, I think there are best practices, and on some of the components, there's guidance in the state law. Sometimes you see sort of a rule of thumb of 5 years. Sometimes it's somewhat of a requirement. On the land use portion, that seems to sort of go along with who you are as a city. Some cities have, I'm trying to think of American Fork as an example. I think their land use plan gets relatively regular amendments, but now it's probably 20 years old.
Very peaceful.
Yeah, and very piecemeal. So,
But it's also quite a bit younger than Midvale?
no, Midvale's is younger.
Midvale's
Ours
younger.
is from 2016.
Yeah, because I remember when we.
Oh, no, yeah. But I'm just saying as far as a city, like when it was incorporated.
Yeah, I mean,
So we maybe have had more time as Midvale to nail it down.
perhaps, and we are working with WFRC. An application has been put in the Wasatch Front Regional Council to obtain funding to update the general plan
Yeah.
because ours next year will be 10 years old. which is a great, I mean, this is a good time to update it.
Absolutely.
10 years already?
Wow,
Yeah.
I'm old.
Sure that makes the minutes.
It's been on my agenda. I want to be here when that happens.
You-
I'm such a nerd.
You are a nerd.
I know.
It's okay though.
It's all right.
Yeah, because it requires our recommendation, so.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. And that was also in the book. There is a requirement for you, just like with the zone change, to make a recommendation.
So gold star.
Yes. Let me put this on the screen.
So is there a difference of where, because like occasionally we'll recommend not to proceed with things and the city council may still choose. When the way this reads, it says it requires the planning commission's recommendation.
Yes, and that I think you can double check with Daniel. I believe that's to be taken literally, meaning you recommend, but
Yeah.
if you recommend denial, the city council can still approve.
Okay.
Or vice versa. So,
Yes, the recommend part.
Yeah.
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 We saw it.
That's all we do.
Absolutely.
not all the time. And, in many administrative processes, you are the land use authority. What you say, that's the final word unless there's an appeal. So, great question. Thank you. Any other questions? Robin, anything stuck out to you or Matt? No?
No, I just think it's interesting to read it myself. I mean, that's really nerdy. What can I say?
Okay. If there aren't any other questions, there are a couple of things that just little tidbits out of the book that I think it's always good to keep those in the back of your mind, and same for us as staff. First of all, cities are, of course, limited in their powers, even though there's a lot that a city can do on its own. That's why your codes can be quite different from city to city, and each developer, whenever they do the project, even if it's same project that they already built in Murray or in Harriman or wherever, the codes can be quite different. So each city does its own, really. But the powers the cities have are delegated by the legislature. So there is always, a limit, and depending on what happens here, sometimes it finds its way to the legislature. And then you suddenly see in invisible ink, the Midvale Amendment or the American Fork Amendment. Those things actually happen. Now, another interesting point is this. So we have the whole system is deductive, right? The general plan sort of has a concept, but the teeth in the law, where it's actually enforceable, they come through the zoning ordinance. All the land use regulations that we have. And let me ask you this. So and we've already talked about this, is it required that the land use plan and zoning, or vice versa, that they say the same thing? Michael says no.
I say no.
Andy says no.
I'm going to say no because they said no.
Okay, that's a good choice.
Because he already got a gold star at the end, so
Yeah, he's the.
I will be honest, I didn't read every single word in that chapter, so
That's fine.
okay.
That's why we talk about it, right?
Good.
And you're right. So
We.
yeah, all of you are right. The general plan is advisory, and the state law actually, it's actually in the law. Let me see if I can. So I hope that's big enough to read. So 109A405, except as provided in 109A406, which is the next section, the general plan is an advisory guide for land use decisions, the impact of which shall be determined by ordinance. And then the qualifier, the next section, basically just says if it's public infrastructure, a street or a park or a public building, then they actually do need to comply. So the street must, if it's a public street, it must comply with the transportation master plan, for example, because the transportation master plan is also part of the general plan. And this is really important because we oftentimes in public meetings get arguments to the contrary. You may remember there were even some attorneys that got up and said, but you can't do this because it doesn't comply. So it's really not the case. Now, of course, whenever you do something that, let's say, obviously doesn't comply with the general plan, you have two choices, I would say. You can make really good findings why you believe this actually complies, or you could say, well, let's also amend the general plan.
Yeah. There was a good case study in there about Payson City, too, about how Payson City, their commission, recommended, and then it went to City Council, and the City Council said no, and it went to appeals. It was a little interesting read, 2 pages.
Yeah. So anything else on the general plan that anyone wants to discuss, ask questions on?
How do developers feel about some of this? I mean, we're discussing things. I mean, do developers come in and go, okay, I've looked at their general plan and this and this and this?
General plan is really broad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it hampers more than not?
It's not uncommon that we get people calling and asking or saying, hey, I've looked at this, and sometimes it's really nice because the general plan can be general. It can be a little bit lofty or aspirational in some ways. So they often come in saying, well, you said you wanted to do this, so let us do it. And so it doesn't usually work out the way that they want it to.
Do you tell them to apply?
I would say.
They're welcome to apply.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
But usually the underlying code won't exactly allow them to do whatever. So.
And actually, usually, I think most of the time we actually like developers who come in and have even looked at the general plan, because oftentimes, yeah, it shows some interest, I would say, because oftentimes you find some developers who will just sort of give you a submittal without having looked at anything. So
it's a pickup line.
Serious.
Yeah.
If you're going to look at it, I think you'd be more a serious developer if you were going to look at that.
So our general plan is like a pickup line with a developer, and they're like, hey, come over here, and then ask more questions.
Right.
Yeah, that makes
Usually
sense.
They just like to send it in and get rejected and make the changes after.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, that's
Rather than doing the reading.
He likes rejection.
yeah,
Right. Get the notes back.
Yeah.
yeah. That's how some operate. Yeah, that's true.
Not naming names, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, no.
Oh, come on.
So another item that came up in the book were temporary land use ordinances. Any comments or questions on those?
Notice periods. Yeah.
Yes, it's very interesting. That's
Tiny. Yeah.
very small. It's really just the 24-hour notice.
Yeah.
And anyone remember when Midvale has used this?
Yeah. Recently, the auto shop around the corner here about parking on the street or something. To that
Yes, there was one.
Yeah.
Yes, it was used there. And there's another occasion, really the most recent one. The period just ran out 6 weeks ago or a month ago.
That's the only one I know of.
I don't know.
So it was for the TODO zone, we just approved it, the city council just approved it, and you recommended approval. We had a temporary land use ordinance for that as well,
Oh, okay.
just so that there isn't a project that comes in and is vested in the old rules and wouldn't have to provide the mixed use, for example. And so general plan, I think you all know this, it's a legislative decision, so you have quite a bit of discretion, especially the city council, but of course you always need to support, what your decision is with findings.
You talked about that you don't necessarily need to support. You can just make a judgmental, you can just make a judgment, and you don't need to support it, actually.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't know.
that might not be strong.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's hard to defend it.
yeah, correct.
Without
Yeah.
that backup.
It did
Yeah.
talk about the justification for findings and how that will strengthen in an appeal process.
Right. If
Yeah.
you can do it, that
Yeah.
probably isn't best practice.
Yeah, so I think best practice for us is really to have findings and to do as good a job as we can, because then if something ever were to happen, it makes it a lot easier to defend. So on the screen here, I don't know if it's too small to read or not, but this is basically the general plan can be all of this, and it keeps on going. So you can carry that to wherever, almost where you want it to go.
Very general.
Yep.
Yep.
So there's also a little bit about annexations. We don't really deal with annexations much. The main thing to remember is there are notice periods. There's an annexation policy plan, which basically says the community sort of tries to project what they would like to annex. Then there's a public body, the Boundary Commission, that can say yes or no to that. But as I said, we don't deal with that much. We are pretty much locked in. That doesn't mean that there couldn't be some small annexations in the future, but nothing really that is foreseeable right now.
I imagine we can get educated on that as the time.
Yes, if it
requires.
comes, yes, definitely.
I have a question about an annexation, though. So have you ever looked at the Midvale City boundary? Harmon's is carved out.
Yes.
Did Harmon's put together an annexation plan for Sandy to get annexed out of
I
Midvale?
call that tax gerrymandering.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
just me.
Sandy.
Is that,
Yeah, so
because
that's
that's recent, that's in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I don't know the history, but I suspect that it may have been unincorporated and then Sandy took it.
Okay.
That's usually what happens. And sometimes you can see, and I don't know if the state law still allows that, but there's what they call the cherry stem annexation. So you annex along some obscure alleyway or road, and then there's the Sam's Club or something,
So what were the homes then? Were they Midvale or my friend lived there?
Were there
Harmon's
homes
is?
there before?
Yes.
We don't all have your
Ashton
experience.
Eggs, and there was a little egg farm. My friend had one of the houses that was there. I'm thinking,
I think it was unincorporated then. It was unincorporated then.
Midvale?
But there's still that little chunk on the other side of 9th, 7th, which is like condos. Then that's Sandy as well. So it goes across the street as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just that little area.
You know where the dead end of 7th East is?
Oh,
It leads
yeah,
right into those condos, yeah. I know.
That's so weird.
The more you know.
Okay.
So anything else? That's pretty much everything that I think we should address in these chapters.
No, I think you did a great job. And thanks for the comments.
Yeah, thank
Do
you.
we have a deadline for the next one? Are we going to assign it? Are there other comments?
My only other comment is, there are conferences that I think more of us should be attending so that we
Okay.
can get more information. And I know that there's one coming up in May,
Yes, the APA conference.
which
Yes.
was very, very enlightening and got a lot of information that was kind of easier to absorb than reading this.
Sure.
So I would just recommend that, if at all possible, that we have commissioners attend those.
Yeah.
If there's a choice or a preference, the conference
Yeah, the conference would be a first choice. I think you get a lot more information and it's much more,
Hands-on.
hands-on and able to absorb the information than reading, for me anyway.
Yeah, sure. And, at the conference, there's a session about one topic, they go a lot deeper. So, yeah. Yeah, so especially the fall conference is always a good one to attend because it's local. The spring APA conference is usually, either
It's in Logan. The spring one
this
is in
spring
Logan.
is in Logan. Sometimes, it's in southern Utah, and then it always depends on budget, how many people can go.
And even with that, even if it's one that's not on the Wasatch Front, we always try to have enough budget if 3 people go.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've ever had 3.
Well, we had 3 in the fall, because,
Yeah.
the 3 of us went in the fall.
Yeah, which was great.
Yeah.
It was good to see Midvale represented.
Yeah. So if you're interested for the spring conference, let me know, and we'll count pennies and see if we can get everyone in. Next budget year starts in July.
Don't we have a budget person here?
That's for next year.
But definitely the fall conference.
Yeah.
Because it's closer and easier to do.
Yeah.
I just think that it's really valuable information for us as commissioners to go to those, because you're getting information from all over the state, so you can it makes our job a little
And I
easier.
think you can even register for half days or something like that.
Yeah.
So if a full day is inaccessible
Yeah.
or there are a couple sessions you're only interested in the morning or afternoon, we can arrange that too.
Yeah, so just a thought.
Yeah. And also there are oftentimes, shorter sessions, during the week over lunch. Lately there haven't been any,
Yeah, there
but
used to be brown bag things, but I haven't
Yes.
seen any for a long time.
yeah, they had a few last year. This year I haven't seen any pop up yet, but I'm sure there'll be at least 2 or 3. So, do you want me to report?
Yes, please.
Okay. I hope everyone had a good time at Planning Commission dinner.
Yes.
So that means it's time to think about the fall dinner. Where do we want to have it? What do we want to eat? So we can talk about that in one of the future sessions we have. Then I have an opportunity, if any of you want to participate, for the Porter Rockwell Trail feasibility study. We are looking for some citizen input that's more internal, that's part of the steering committee. The steering committee would meet during business hours, unfortunately, up to 4 times between March and August. However, if one of you says, I would like to be a little more involved, more hands-on, but I can't come to the steering committee meetings, that's fine too. We'll just send you documents. You can ask us questions or make comments, whatever you like. So if you're interested, let me know.
What kind of time commitment are those 4 different?
So the steering committee meetings, usually the kickoff is the longest, and that would be maybe up to 2 hours, but not more. And then we'll have one meeting where we actually go out and sort of look at the potential route for
Field
this.
trip?
Yeah, field trip. And that would probably be also in that ballpark. The other ones, I would think, they would be a little shorter. So.
And just contact you if we're interested.
Yeah, if you're interested, send me an email, and then we can work up the details, and maybe also send me your availability, because then we haven't set the time yet. Then we can try as much as we can to accommodate any, time constraints that you might have.
And that steering committee is Midvale centric or the entire trail?
It's just for our section. This is,
Just Midvale.
Midwest City looking at our section of this. So,
Cool.
yeah, well, that's everything I had.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I did want to do a shout out to our Public Works Department. I noticed a traffic light had a green light that wasn't working, and I reported it, I think, on Saturday night. And I got a notification Monday before noon that it was done. And it was super fast. So it was,
What in the world?
the online thing works, use it. If you notice things, they're on top of it. So huge shout out to Public Works. Yeah. Any other things?
I don't have anything.
Thanks for delicious pizza. It was yummy.
Well, I will
There you
make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 6:40.